Hey, hi everyone, welcome to the OLM community meeting. And let me share my screen and we can go to the agenda. Um, I hope you guys can see my screen. We have two RFCs and one brief. The first one is move OLM V1 components to monorepo. The Leggy consensus date for that is tomorrow. So that's Wednesday. And then I think we have one brief and RFC related, which is OLMV1 private registry support. The LG consensus date is today. And and the prototype is already merged. Anything you want to Sid or Anik, you guys want to talk about this private registry stuff?
Yeah, there's an update about this. So the RFC, the way that it was written, was approved, and then I think that's the prototype that merged. But then when we went to production and when we tried testing it, we ran into a problem. We ran into a roadblock. Namely, we realized that in order for us to go this route, we'd need to ha change our controller to give the container root access. So we went back to the drawing board and came up with different options, out of which one sort of is the clear winner, I think. And the RFC is updated to capture all of that conversation. So we have the RFC in a updated and then draft state already, or ready for review state already. There's a different, right. So there's a different PR that's up right now, and I can link it if you give me one moment. Okay, I can ping it in the chat. I don't have the doc open right now. Let me see.
Yeah, that's fine. If you even if you send it in chat, that's fine. I can add it. We can do it in the background. We don't have to like do it on the call itself.
I think I'll
Um,
Right.
extend the date of the like maybe give it a few more days to sort of converge.
yeah, I think I'm not. I mean, I'm fine with this date, but I am. Do you remember when did we update the RFC?
I think the last update was today or yesterday, so that's why.
Okay, so then I think let's give it end of this week at least, 4th of October. And in the meantime, we can definitely work on the PR, get it ready. Um, does that sound
Right.
okay to you guys?
Yep,
Yeah,
that sounds
definitely sounds
okay.
good.
We are actively working on the PR and the RFC. So as we are finding things, we are trying to keep the RFC up to date. So please go and review that. Please go and review the PR, give us feedback. And then if we get a few more days, I think we should be good to go.
Okay, awesome. Also regarding the all-in V1 monorepo, we have a meeting for tomorrow, um, 9:30 EST, which is 8:30 in where I think Texas, right, Edmund? Um, and
Yes.
so if you guys want to join that, let Edmund know. We basically, because we'll reach our LG consensus date tomorrow, we're just trying to talk about more details with respect to like, we already kind of laid out the plan, but we'll talk about a little more detail, like how exactly we'll do it, because we do not want to, break anything or block anything for the 1.0 release. So that's the agenda for tomorrow's meeting. Cool. Moving on to the discussion topics, we have our 1.0 sync. So I'm opening the board. And the done, going to the done section, everything looks good. Um, and then ready for review column. looks like derived minimal service account needed to install a bundle PR got merged. Thanks, Rashmi and Pair. I'm moving this to the down column now. And the RFC is going through review. So I'll keep it here. Um, the Ankita's PR, I started reviewing yesterday, but couldn't finish it. I think it needs more one round of review. I pinged some folks on the Slack. So I think this needs definitely another set of review because things have been fixed from the last time it was reviewed. And then we have update install status condition usage that got merged. It's already closed. I'm moving into done section. Remove status resolution field that got merged. So moving that to done section. Um, and on the moving to implementing section, promote V1 Alpha 1. We are basically holding on this card because basically we have put a hold to this card, waiting for other thing to finish so that we can do it. We have on the no status side.
I have a question about that one.
This one? Okay.
No, the promotion, the V1 promotion.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
we have current users using this pre-GA, right? Do we also need to account for an upgrade story for them? Or are we handling the transition from V1 Alpha 1 to V1 for them?
There's going to be a bunch of breaking changes. Like every time we release a new version, we break everything. So to answer your question, the answer is no, we're not going to support upgrades or conversions or anything like that. Essentially, in the whatever version that we do that promotion, it'll V1 Alpha 1 will disappear and V1 will show up, and there won't be any supported upgrade between old and new.
But then post GA, if we have to upgrade to say a V2 or whatever, then we would start using conversions in our product, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Moving to the no status column. What is a public API? The documentation. Bryce, have you started working on this one, or is this should be trying to understand if it should be in the implementing column or it should be no status column? Maybe Bryce is not here. Okay. I'll leave it. Then move to the next one. Collect all 1.0 draft docs into a separate hierarchy. Pierre, is this something you started working on?
Yep, I have a draft PR, but it will still take a little while, I think.
Okay, that's fine. So we're moving to the implementing column now. So for the review, API review stuff, I think we should start kind of preparing ourselves for sending it to, but I think anything else on the API review things, we should start getting ready for the external API review submission. Because I think most of the cards are done, and hopefully, Ankita's card that would be also done very quickly or soon. We would be ready to basically go to these cards, which is catalog the external API review submission, update operator control to use V1. Oh, that is after the review. Do we need another card for operator controller for API review submission? Because I don't see any card for that. Right now, we have a card for catalog D external API review submission, but we do not have equivalent for operator controller. Or probably we can do them both of them together. Maybe that's something we can do. Joe, you have any comments or suggestion?
Sorry, I've been multitasking. What's the question?
The catalog D, we have a separate issue for submitting external API review, but we do not have similar for operator controller.
I think the plan is to have just one submission. So we should not have two separate issues, I don't think.
Can I just change it to external API review submission?
Yeah, it's in the catalog D repo. I'm not sure it matters that much.
I think should be okay. If required, we can actually move it.
We should
That's
we should clarify that we want to do both APIs because even the way that it looks now, you can't really tell that we're asking for both.
also they would be in a single repo, so that's anyway going to happen. But I think we'll
That might not happen before 1.0 or anything though.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine. Moving on to the agenda. We have a roadmap check-in.
Hey, Lala,
Yeah, but
before we go on to that, I had an afterthought about the private registry support RFC. Um, Sid, I know you mentioned
can you,
giving it.
Anik, can you add as a discussion topic so we can come back to
Okay,
this? Yeah,
okay, I can do that.
yeah, thank you. So going to 1.0 epics, we have review and finalize V1 API for catalog D in implementing, documentation implementing, V1 APIs for operator controller implementing, and then we have 1.0 proposed release blockers. So let's see if we have any new proposed release blockers. So there are two. Do we have Nico in this meeting? Have you all talked about it last week?
I don't think we ever finished this conversation.
Do we need Nico for the conversation?
Yeah, I think so.
I think let's go through them anyway. So the description says interruptions during bundle reconciliation could lead to operator controller not completing the current running rollout and instead pick up the next available release from the catalog. Not rolling out release completely may lead to inconsistent results and unexpected behavior. TLDR is binary restarts and transient errors should not re-trigger re-resolve bundle images when a rollout is still in flight. So yeah, we had a small discussion with Nico, some of the meetings, and I think Joe, you are in the opinion that this will not be a blocker for at least the first 1.0 release.
I think Nico was trying to argue that it should be, and we hadn't decided, if I remember correctly.
I feel like this one kind of depends on how quick we think we can fix this.
Yeah,
Post GA, if we think that we can release it faster than people release operators, then it can probably go after. But if we don't think we can fix it faster than people release operators, then it should probably be a blocker.
I think it probably depends even more so on whether we think it would be a breaking change to change it afterwards.
In that case, we should fix it before 1.0.
Yeah. It's debatable though, because it's behavior change, and we might be able to say there's a known issue. The intended behavior is X, but currently the behavior is Y. We intend to make it do X. And if we think that we can make a case for that not being an egregious breaking change, then I think it doesn't have to be a blocker. But I think that's where the rub is, and that's why I think Nico was trying to make an argument that maybe that is too egregious and we should fix it before. So we just haven't. I don't think we've just decided yet.
It's not necessarily like a breaking change where something that previously worked won't work. It's just more of a change in how we would process things from point A to point B, right?
Yeah, it's basically Hiram's law. Like, does someone depend on that behavior?
Yeah.
And if they do, even if it's behavior that we didn't intend to exist, it would break that person at least. And so we have to decide whether that's acceptable. And all of this is very hypothetical, because right now we're all, breaking things all the time, and we don't have anybody that could possibly depend on anything because it's not GA yet. So it's like us trying to predict whether there would be someone who would be in that situation that quickly, to the point that we'd say, no, we should go ahead and fix this first.
I
My feeling
would
is we could
just
probably
sorry.
do it after, but I'm willing to have the conversation and talk it through.
You
I
know,
kind of lean that way as well, but without Nick's input, it's hard to say one way or another 100%. But I lean after the fact, because just day one, there's not going to be anyone depending on this, and day five, no one's going to have released 3 operators, right?
Yeah, and if we additionally go to the next step of saying that this is a known issue, then that's yet another thing that will help us make sure that people don't unintentionally depend on this. Because in theory, we could say, well, yeah, we told you that this was a known issue. This is what we're going to do to fix it. But I do think we need to include Nico in the conversation, because I think he was the primary. A, he reported the issue, and B, I think he had some opinions on whether it should be a blocker or not.
Joe, when you said it's going to be a breaking change, do you mean the scenario, or do you say I that there might be some API change or something required for this? I don't see any API change required for this, but I think I just want to make sure that you are saying because of the user experience.
Uh, it depends whether, I mean, there's 2 ways that something can break. We can change the API in a way that it doesn't work the way that it used to, or either like a new field is required that wasn't required before, so now everyone that has stuff has to use the new required field, or we change field, like we do an API breaking change. That's one way. Another way is using the same exact API, we change the behavior to the point that it's like does something different enough that the user would be broken. Uh, an example of that would be, well, in the first iteration, we upgraded from the failed version based on its upgrade graph. And in the new version, we upgraded from the previously installed version based on its upgrade graph. That might be enough of a breaking change to someone's setup that it's not acceptable. This is more about the behavior scenario. And if we say that it is a breaking change to do that, then the only way that we can fix it afterwards is to introduce a new field on the API that lets a user opt for the different behavior.
Yeah,
But
that
that seems that seems like something we wouldn't want to do,
right?
which then you would say, well, okay, then that means that this whole thing is blocking. We have to fix the behavior before we GA. Or like, so that's one option. The other option I think is we just say, it's not enough of a change that we would consider this to be a breaking change afterward. This is a bug fix for a known issue, in which case we can do it afterwards.
Given the gray area in this bug, I would suggest that we start working on this, and depending on what we find, we consider this as a blocker, but then we can come back and revisit once we know what kind of fix we're actually planning to do.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to handle it for now.
Well, 96, right? Yep. The next one, which is E2E error, already exists in namespace and cannot be managed by operator controller. This is created by Joe. Yeah, I saw this in the E2E kind tests. I was going to ask about it, but I did not know that you have already created a card for this one, Joe.
Isn't this directly related to what Nico found? In that we're not cleaning up properly, or not waiting for the cleanup?
Yeah, I think so. I put a comment at the bottom of this yesterday, I think, that explained what I thought the outcome of the conversation was.
Let's link these two cases then in that case. Sorry.
I don't think this is related to the other thing. I think this is we just don't have our E to E's clean up after themselves. And then the next E to E starts running, and the same things are used. If you read my comment, you'll see what I think the problem is. Yeah, we reuse bundle objects in different tests and don't wait for them to be cleaned up.
I kind of questioned our test setup a while ago. Like, we're manually doing things instead of letting frameworks do things, like before test, after test. Should we potentially switch to that style of writing? That way we're not we don't have to keep track of everything. We can just let the testing framework keep track of everything for us.
Either way, like I'm not disagreeing, I guess, but either way, we have to implement that logic. So I think I think we can have a conversation about how to improve our test structure, but I don't think we should do it in the context of fixing this flake. Like I think we already have a structure where you basically initialize some stuff and it returns a cleanup function, and then we defer the cleanup function or something like that. So we have something similar to what you're talking about. We just don't properly clean up all the way, essentially.
Yeah, what Adam is talking about sounds like a Ginkgo type of setup. And I remember us having that conversation somewhere about not using Ginkgo type of setup. And therefore we don't have that for free.
Yeah,
But yeah, Joe,
Yeah,
sorry,
we
we
Todd,
did
go for it.
we
we
did
explicitly got rid of
definitely,
it.
yeah, we decided explicitly we don't want to use Ginkgo and Go Mega, but that doesn't mean we can't make our structure better with standard Go testing either. I think the main reason we got rid of it is because it encourages like a lot of nesting, like multiple before eaches that various layers of nesting, and it makes the um, test code really hard to manage.
Yeah, I think another thing on that was because it was also, um, if I remember right, GoMega has a bunch of different ways to compare things that are semantically the same. And so there's, depending on who writes it, there's inconsistency.
Yeah. So I don't know that we've totally gotten rid of it, but we've been trying to.
We got rid of it in operator controller, but I believe Catalog D still uses some Ginkgo infrastructure.
And I'm feeling like maybe when we pulled Ruckpack in, maybe Ruckpack brought some of it back in. I can't, it might just be catalog D, but I know that I've seen it recently. So, but regardless, like I think that this is all a non sequitur.
Feel like we should create a separate epic for our taste related long-term taste related fixes, right? I mean, this is fine for this one, but do you want to create a separate epic to cover some of the things Adams was talking about, or you guys are talking about?
I think we've already done that when we decided we're not going to use Ginkgo Go Mega. If there
Okay.
are specific things that we find that we want to improve, then let's just make an issue for it.
Cool.
And then
So
we can decide whether that warrants a whole epic or not.
yeah, agree. Coming back to this issue, I feel it should be a blocker issue, mostly because I think tests are very important for us, and we want them to consistently produce
I don't think
results.
this should be a blocker. I mean, as much as I agree that tests are important, if this were the last thing standing in the way, I would say ship it because it's
Yeah,
just an issue with test flakes.
Yeah, I mean, you rerun, as I pointed out in there, you rerun it and it'll pass 99% of the time.
right. So there is no, I mean, but I think we also agree that if we have time, we should start working on this now. So how do we put that? Like, should we make it a blocker and then if it does not get finished, then we just move it back and then say, that's fine. We're anyway doing 1.0 release and this would be coming to become after 1.0.
I think we put it in the non-blocker section of the proposed release blockers list, and then it's still there. You can still see it, but it's
Okay,
clear um, we don't have to do it immediately. But at least it's still like on a list of things that we should do.
cool. I
That
did
work?
that. Yeah. Maybe I missed the, okay. So yeah, we covered that, I think. Moving to the no status column. The epic, which is establish home for 1.0 Go APIs. Do you, I think we should have an update here because it's always already linked with the monorepo, or should we do the monorepo thing and come back and say what's the consensus on this one?
This definitely looks like a phase two thing, right? So need to have phase one done and have the discussion for this while phase one is going on. So I don't know
Yeah,
if this
I think where we landed here is the Go structs are not going to be in our public API, despite them being importable. We're going to basically declare them as non-public initially, which then means that we have the freedom to move them around and basically move them into the mono repo after 1.0, at which point then maybe we go and say that, okay, now they're public and they become part of our API. But I think this probably just folds in under the mono repo work.
it's probably worth reducing the number of moving parts for the monorepo work too, given that we might introduce some risk to the GA blocker issues, given how it's decided that we do the monorepo merging work. But the more moving parts we introduce, it seems like the more PRs that we might need to delay that will be related to the GA blocking work. So TLDR, putting my case forward for doing this after GA.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can wait. My perspective is it's not a blocker. We'll do it as part of the monorepo stuff. Um, we need to do our monorepo stuff in a way that does not add risk to a 1.0 or a GA. But that doesn't mean we can't get started on it in a non-risky way. So it's like if we get it done in time and we can do a cutover in a non-risky way, then great, let's do it. If not, that's fine too. Like we can do it afterwards.
Yeah, I agree. I also feel it is not a blocker for 1.0.
I think
Uh,
honestly, to make this easier to consume, I sort of think we should convert this whole epic back to a regular issue and just put it under the monorepo epic.
what others think about it? Do you think that's can do that? I'm fine doing that
Sounds
because, sorry, go ahead,
I'm
Ali.
good with it being part of the monorepo.
same. I was just gonna say +1.
Are we still considering having it as a separate repo or as having a separate repo for the APIs, or are we thinking on everything under the same repo?
The current thought is that the APIs can go into the monorepo with everything else. And we just need to make sure that we have checks in place that don't bring dependencies into importers of the APIs, like unnecessary dependencies, which accomplishes the same thing as putting it in a separate repo.
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed.
Should I also remove the 1.0 from here because anyway it would be part of the monorepo thing. I'm not sure how the labels work here, but I hope I did not break the labels as such, but if it is, then we can fix it. So this actually removed it from here. I was not sure that if there's one epic or two epics there. I hope. Anyway, I think whatever it was, I think it's supposed to be that way. So we have only four epics in the implementing part, and everything else is kind of done. So we're good. So moving on to our agenda, and Anik have added an agenda about private registry support RFC. Anik, do you want to go talk about it?
Right. So today, today's the first, right? So it should say today. Yeah, I wanted to see if we are okay with keeping the consensus date to today. We know what the work is. We went and decided we or figured out we need to update it, and we have the RC updated. I think it's already been reviewed a little bit. I have the prototype up. Right before this meeting, I got the prototype to work on my local machine. So I have fair amount of confidence on the direction that we are taking. So I wanted to take a temperature check and see, do we really need to give a few more days for this, or can we say that we can actually move this to today? The consensus date to today. And the reason I say this is because next week we have a few PTOs coming up too. So I have a selfish agenda of trying to see if we can finish this this week or early next week. But if I hear but if people need more time, we can obviously ignore the PTO factor and say that no, we need a few more days. So wanted to open that up to the floor,
So
see
the
what folks think about it.
Anik, the PTO factor, sorry, I missed it. Can you please repeat?
I was saying that next week I'm on PTO, Joe's on PTO. So the folks who've been working on this and reviewing this, there'll be a fair amount of PTO coming up next week too. So I'm trying to see if we can finish this update this week. Did you get that, Lara?
Yeah, yeah. So tomorrow is 2nd, right? Not 1st of October. So tomorrow is 2nd of
Right.
October.
So I made that mistake because of the time zone difference. It should say today. Or we can keep it to tomorrow too if we need one more day. So let me ask this. Is anybody opposed to keeping the consensus date for this RFC with the update to today, end of day?
You should say 2nd of October. I think that just unifies everything, right?
Let's
You,
make it,
you
can we make it tomorrow? So Wednesday, October 2nd, end of day, and then that gives us the 3rd and the 4th
okay?
to get
Okay.
it implemented and reviewed and merged.
Okay. Sounds fair. So then tomorrow is fine.
And by the way, like I would keep working on the PR regardless.
Right.
Yeah. The peer review can go on in the parallel. The work and review can actually go on parallel. That's fine.
And
Yep.
Anik,
Yep.
I would also, I know this is Red Hat specific, but I would also be working on the Red Hat um, downstream PRs that Red Hat needs at the same time.
Right. So I wasn't mentioning this so far, but we also need time once this merges upstream, we need time to get this sync downstream, and then there's going to be a couple of more PRs. So we need time for that too, like Joe mentioned. But I think it'll be fine if we
Yeah,
give
I'm just
keep
saying go ahead
tomorrow.
and get those prepped.
Right. Right. Okay. Sounds good to me. Tomorrow it is then. Lala, that's all I had.
Okay. Thanks, Sunny. So yeah, that's all what we have in the agenda. Is there anything anyone wants to talk about? Also, I think which is coming down, right? We have only few cards on the board. So once those cards are done, we should be able to we should stop the daily sync we have in the upstream, like, 4 times a week we sync. We should stop that, and hopefully we would be able to do most of the PRs this week or probably end of this next week, and we should be able to do a 1.0 alpha release. What everyone thinks about that?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, so I think let's target next week. If we can do a alpha release. If not next week, then the week after that. And that would give us some more confidence that, we kind of covered, we kind of finished all our cards, and only the review is the pending thing which needs to be done. Cool. Thanks everyone for time, and talk to you soon. Have a rest of the day, a great rest of the day and evening, depending on the time zone.
Thanks, Nala. Later, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.